So Ramaz, as an Arab Black young lady, you just talked about racism within the Arab community, and you have received a lot of slack from Arabs on social media, and a lot of them you've actually posted on social media, like you took snapshots and you uh, put it up there. Like, what was your thought process when you were doing that? And can you like kind of walk through that whole incident of people countering your narrative on social media when you're telling them about the racism, and then Arabs coming back at you and saying, well, you know, you're a sellout, or you're speaking up against us, how can you, we're not racist, blah blah blah, and now you have to defend it even more.
Okay. First of all, that was a very uncomfortable post to write up because, like Kelly mentioned earlier, I'm not used to doing that. However, I noticed the deafening silence of all the communities surrounding me, and I was just so upset at how you couldn't be so angry at the very beginning of by what's going on. I thought about it, and I think like whenever there's anything like the Palestinian community or anything regarding the Muslim ban or anything, any issue, any social justice issue concerning white Arabs, like everybody's out in the streets. Like my activism started based on what was going on in Palestine. Like I remember I would write poetry and I would cry for weeks, and my dad had this one Palestinian friend was like, oh, you can read your poetry to him, like if it makes you feel better. So like I just couldn't understand that we were collectively always, like the Black community was always enraged and was always in support of all these causes, but there was like this deafening silence by people that I called friends. It started out by me sending a message to a social media influencer with a pretty large following, like over 200,000 likes. And I said, hey, I haven't seen you post about this issue. And she shared with me that she was consulting affected communities and trying to get the language, the right language. But to me, I mean, I like her. She's my friend. We're cool. But to me, it's like you shouldn't have to consult affected communities. Like you should be so enraged right away and you should post something. It could be as simple as a photo and a caption as Black Lives Matter. And then maybe you can take the day or two because your audience and a lot of these people that are looking at you are looking for that messaging. So to me, ultimately, that was just another instance in which I realized that Black people don't matter as much to other people. Like we're not at the very forefront of issues that other people are concerned with. We're an afterthought. So I was like, you know what? I have my own platform and I'm just going to speak my truth because I am angry. That's how I was. I'm very angry, still am very angry. So I wrote a post mainly talking about the implicit biases that are formed when we carelessly use words such as abid and abd. I've had that word used with me, people everywhere. I've had that word used with me when I was in Mecca. When I was performing Hajj, someone called me that. The most holiest and sanctity of place is a place where I felt like I was violated for my identity. The responses have been varying. A lot of the hate I feel like comes from um, the discomfort that one feels when you challenge the entirety of their life. You know what I'm saying? Because I was asking them to look inwards and know that whenever you use these words as abid and abd and things of that nature, those words carry a lot because slavery and a slave is synonymous with servitude. A slave is synonymous with one that isn't worthy of life, of love, of kindness, of anything. So ultimately, this is someone that does not matter. And like we learn a lot from like my education in school that like the stages of genocide are varying. Like the actual physical taking of life is one of the last stages before the denial stage. So there's a lot that occurs that dehumanizes the person. So when you use this word abid and abd, you're constantly dehumanizing us, and you're allowing for the entire Muslim world that don't regard us to continue in their disregard for us. So the responses were very vile, very vile. I had one girl wrote me back, actually multiple. There was a thread, maybe 6 or 7, that wrote me back and said, your anger is unfounded. You're just upset that Abdullah left you for Fatima. And by this, they're implying that it's really disgusting, to be honest, but they're implying that I was talking to some white Arab guy and this Fatima comes and who's a white Arab and steals him away from me. And that to me is, imagine had that been my actual experience. Imagine I've had that as part of my experience in life. You know, I haven't, you know, yeah, but like that hasn't been part of my experience talking to a white Arab guy and him being stolen, you know, by a white Arab girl. But I'm pretty sure that is the experience of hundreds of thousands of women that live in predominantly white Arab spaces. People called me all sorts of names, people cussed me out, but what I like to focus on is the admission of the reality that yes, these are words we're using in our homes, and I have never thought about it before. I can't believe that you're right, 100%. Using these words allows for me to disregard people. Using this word, although may not lead to the physical slain body, but in a way I'm perpetuating the continuance of this discrimination in our society and in our homes. So it's been, you know, it's been varying responses. There have been more positive than negative, at least in my eyes, because I don't choose to engage. Like Khadija said, you're not responsible for teaching people. I'm simply putting out my truth, and this is a true message. So if it makes you, if your discomfort moves you towards recognizing your faulty behavior and your discriminatory thinking and changing, then that so be it. If it does not, and you're further doing, you're trying to defend your image or your people, because people were upset. They said, you know, you're trying to defame Islam. We already get so much hate for being Muslims. By talking about the racism in our Muslim community, you're making people think that Islam is hateful. I'm saying no. I'm talking about you guys and what you're doing. This is not Islam, because this is what Islam tells us, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us, and he says, if you see an injustice, change it with your hand. Change it with your physical body. And if you see an injustice and you cannot change it with your physical body, then change it with your tongue. Speak your truth. And if you cannot, then hate it with your heart. And to hate it with your heart is the least of faith. To hate it with your heart is least of faith. So what I'm trying to do, and what I feel like a lot of my Black brothers and sisters are trying to get people to hate it with their heart, which is the weakest of faith. So here you're telling me about Islam and how making Islam look bad, but you're not even hating this with your heart. So it's very frustrating, but at the same time, it's been beautiful to see people say, look, I now hate it with my heart. You've awoken me to hate it with my heart, and I will now vocally speak about it. And God willing, I'm going to now act about it. And that's the only thing we can do, is to act about it.